All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, I'm gonna hurt some people's feelings because there's a couple big fights that should be taking place for the rest of this year. One involves Canelo Alvarez and Jermell Charlo, and the other one's gonna include probably a rematch between Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford says again that he has his eyes set on undisputed at 168. However, there are comments out there on the street, in these YouTube boxing talk streets, that Canelo Alvarez would probably insist on him doing something first, which is making it worth his while. And there's only one real way that Terence Crawford can make it worth his while, where there's something in it for Canelo. Let's talk about that, or really Jermell Charlo either. Let's talk about that and a certain man by the name of David Benavidez in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're gonna be in the 168-pound division, where we could have some real history-making, and I mean legitimately history-making stuff going on, based on some of the fights that are getting lined up, that are all coming up very soon. Four of the fighters are Canelo Alvarez, Jermell Charlo, who will be fighting on September 30th in a pay-per-view fight for which is being billed as Undisputed versus Undisputed. Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr., who will be having a rematch more than likely at, I'm not sure whether it's going to be 147 or 154, in a fight that was undisputed, but one of the biggest fights in boxing. And also another fight that is taking place between David Benavidez and a very, very underrated fighter that goes by the name of Demetrius Andrade. Now, before I get into the details of that, though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And if you are a longtime subscriber and supporter of the channel, thank you so much for your support. This video goes out to Kamal Oz. I will most definitely be having Demetrius Andrade, David Benavidez, and a Canelo Alvarez talk in this video for you, sir. Been a big supporter of the channel, man. Shout out to you. Let's get into this. So Terence Crawford says that he wants to move up to 168 pounds, and he thinks that he and Canelo Alvarez is the biggest fight in boxing. Only problem, Canelo Alvarez says blatantly, there's nothing in it for me to fight Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford is little, he's small, he moves up, and I beat him. What difference does that make to me? How does that help me? So on his face, Canelo Alvarez is not interested in that fight. You also have Jermell Charlo, who has said about Terence Crawford, and let's assume Jermell Charlo beats Canelo Alvarez because that is possible, very possible. He says, hey, how about you go fight Jaron Ennis and leave us alone? And if I have Jermell Charlo, if I beat Canelo, or when I beat Canelo, I am going to rematch Canelo. So you're not in the picture. So if Terence Crawford is serious about wanting that third undisputed title, he's got some choices. He can either stay at 154 pounds and fight a series of fights at 154 pounds to get his hands on all those belts, because more than likely Jermell Charlo is not coming back down to 154 pounds to defend those titles. More than likely he's not. So either that, and it will definitely be the case that he would need to do that if Jermell Charlo wins all the belts at 168 pounds and then defends them. So he can go to 154, negotiate a fight with Tim Tszyu, negotiate a fight with whoever the people are that get the rest of those belts, and he can take another 3 years, the last 3 years of his career, trying to combine all of those belts, which is going to be very hard to get done. Or he can move up to 168 and he can campaign at 168 and try to be in a position to be the mandatory for one of the guys that are there by beating one of those mandatories. Now, who is that mandatory? That mandatory challenger for the WBC title, and I do believe the next one up, is a man by the name of David Benavidez, who will be fighting Demetrius Andrade for that status later on this year. I do believe that fight is already done. So if Terence Crawford wants to do that, his shortest path to that 168-pound undisputed title, based off what Jermell Charlo has said and Canelo Alvarez has said, is to put them in a position where they have no choice but to fight him. And the way you do that is you got to earn it and fight David Benavidez. If David Benavidez beats Demetrius Andrade, or you beat Demetrius Andrade if Demetrius Andrade beats David Benavidez, provided there's no rematch clause in that, which I don't think that there's a reason that there should be. But if there is, that complicates it. But David Benavidez, if David Benavidez beats him, David Benavidez is the guy who is, at this moment in time, in my opinion, the number 2 guy in that division. You got to put Canelo as the top guy in the division because he has all the belts. But the second guy is the dude that is a 2-time champion in that division, but yet still undefeated because he's never lost a fight. He never lost. He was the WBC champion, and he was stripped because he had something that he shouldn't have had in his system, right? Partying a little too much is what it looked like to me. And then the next time during this COVID epidemic, he missed weight before a bubble fight, which got him stripped of that belt and allowed Canelo to come up and fight for the vacant title. And there have been people that have been calling for that fight between Canelo Alvarez and David Benavidez for years, including my guy Kamal Oz. So if Canelo Alvarez wants to do that, wants to be in that position, that's the route that he needs to take to do it. And if I may add my own personal opinion here about why that would actually be a better thing, because just moving up there and fighting a guy that they say Jermell Charlo gets it. Jermell Charlo beats Canelo Alvarez. Both those guys had moved up from 154. Neither Jermell Charlo or Canelo Alvarez, in my eyes, have proven that they are better fighters, even if no matter what happens in that fight, that those guys would be able to beat David Benavidez or they would be able to beat David Morrell. Neither the WBA world champion. Neither one of those guys have demonstrated to me that they are for sure better than either one of those guys. So Terence Crawford moving up and getting that undisputed title wouldn't mean that he was the best person in that division, because you have a champion that got stripped who can say literally, man, that WBC really should be my belt, right? That should be my belt, even though we know that it's not. But again, that if Terence Crawford goes up there and earns it by beating David Benavidez, then I think Canelo Alvarez has absolutely no choice. Jermell Charlo would have absolutely no choice but to fight him after beating somebody like David Benavidez. And if Canelo Alvarez really thinks he can be the best at 168, hey man, what better way to do it? What better way to do it than that? I don't think that there is. But will we get to see that? I'm not so sure if we're going to be able to get to see that. So what I really think will happen is this. I think that Terence Crawford is going to wind up staying down at the 147-pound division or down at maybe at the 154-pound division. If he does not rematch Errol Spence Jr., and then we're going to have conversations about, whether or not he's going to fight Jaron Ennis, because at the end of the day, I'm just assuming he gets past Errol for the next time, or he doesn't fight him next. Then the real conversation is going to be, dude, what about this guy Jaron Ennis? And you also have to take into consideration that these are all PBC events, and that the PBC is and Al Heyman, who's negotiating all of these dates with all of these fighters, are going to look out for the interests of everybody to the extent that he can, because that's his organization. However, whatever you think the case is, man, all of this stuff going on, none of it can be anything but really, really good fights, provided we don't get into prima donna land right? We don't get into prima donna land. And it doesn't seem like we're currently, other than the talk, that we're there. Definitely not at 168 right now because of the fight that Canelo Alvarez is taken with Jermell, and the fight that David Benavidez is taken with Demetrius Andrade. The only guy left out of this equation is my guy David Morrell. But we'll see how it plays out. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.